they're meant to pair together. And if you haven't worked with Firebase, let me give a plug to Firebase, because that tool, that set of tools, which is owned by Google now, is incredible. It's easy to use and it's very fast to get started with. And so I want to mention, I wrote this article about this same topic, which you can find on Medium, and it goes through everything I'm going to say. So in here, I also want to show you how to do this, walk you through it, and I hope that some of you will follow along. But before I do that, I want to tell you what it does and why you should use it. Okay, so let's get started. This is a little bit of info about me, but you already heard my bio, so we'll skip it. So you're going to learn what a headless CMS is versus a regular CMS. A lot of you are probably familiar with that. What Flamelink is and why it's great, how to set up a Firebase project, and then how to connect your Flamelink account to it, and then how to use Flamelink to create schemas and content. Then at the end, I'll show you how to use Angular Fire and Flamelink CDK to get your content into your apps. If I had more time, I would then show you how to host it, how to set up authentication, and maybe even go further into all of the amazing Firebase tools that you can combine with all of this. I want you to think of this as me handing you a new tool that you can use in your development. So let's talk about CMS. Yeah, I love this little picture because it really does paint well what WordPress is to me. I used to work on WordPress projects. It was years ago, and I really enjoyed it at the time, but I don't enjoy it anymore. So if I rag on old CMS or the classical CMSs, know that I do it with love, but also with experience. So this guy's like, the deluxe 6,000 CMS also makes you coffee. And this guy's like, that sounds great. I'm sure we need that. And that's how it is when you use WordPress. I'll explain that a little bit more as we go along, but this is cleaner than that. And this can be used with your Angular applications, which I assume if you're here, you're interested in Angular. So let me talk about use cases for a headless CMS, because many of you might be like, well, why would I need that? What is that? Well, let's go through it. So here's one use case for your business's clients. I've done lots of projects that were either side projects, even paying projects. At one time in my career, I was a contractor for a few years. And so I bounced between contracts, and I used this in a couple of those actually. So basically, your use case is the client wants to be able to edit their own content, or the client doesn't have time to learn HTML and CSS, or the client respects your privacy and your time, and they don't want to have to call you every time they need a few words or images updated. That would never happen. Every client I've ever had doesn't respect my time, but I love them because they pay me. So I will say, if you respect your time and you want to encourage your client, say, hey, you can put up your own content. You don't have to wait for my development cycles. You can get this out when you want, how you want, and it's going to be easy to manage. So the first one is for your clients. The second use case is for the enterprise, okay? I've been working for the enterprise, the USS enterprise. No, I wish. I've been working for enterprises for a while, and I've used different headless CMSs at them. I've never used Flamelink at one. I'm still trying to convince somebody to use Firebase at an enterprise, but most people prefer to use Google Cloud, Azure, or AWS, so I haven't been successful in that yet. But it's a really great opportunity for you to bring this up to your bosses and say, hey, marketing will be able to edit their own content. So that means you won't have to wait for development cycles, sprints, whatever it is, to get this content up, which is so handy for their launch dates, for their, there's so many reasons. The business doesn't want to train their marketing professionals to do what you do. So encourage them not to. Encourage them to use this tool instead. And marketing doesn't want to have to wait for maybe an image is like, hey, we got to get this image down quick because it doesn't represent our brand well enough, or something. That kind of thing, situation can be avoided completely. All right, so why you shouldn't use, I should say here, a classical CMS, okay? When I say classical CMS, I mean WordPress, Joomla, Drupal. Why you shouldn't use that, okay? So it pigeonholes you into, and forces you to choose, it forces you to abide by the decisions they've already made for you, like what language you're gonna use. In WordPress, that's PHP. Their pick of architectures, their pick of themes and styles, or a community around themes and styles, and their pick of third-party libraries that you're allowed to use, or to make one for yourself. And if you're like me and you love working in Angular, but you want to give CMS stuff like features to your applications, then don't worry about it anymore, because there is the Headless CMS, okay? I once looked up what the word headless means in various situations, so I couldn't remember, and all that I remember is the Headless Horseman, which, if that's the only thing you take from this, I'm sorry. But basically what a headless CMS is, you want to use Angular, or you want to use React, or you want to use Vue, then you can use this with any of those frameworks and not have to be forced into decisions you don't want to make. Cool. So you want to have all of those use cases, but you don't want to be forced into something. At some point, I did a Google search of all the CMS options. The only one I want you to care about right now is Flamelink. I've used Graph CMS as well, but don't care about that. Just care about Flamelink for now. All right. I was going to make you watch this movie, but when I'm in a Zoom meeting, I always have to figure out where the button is that makes you hear my sound. So I may not do that. It's great, but let's move on. All right, so let's talk about how it's done. And then I'm going to allow you guys to interrupt me at any point, not yet, but it's coming soon, to ask me questions, because I want you to feel free to follow along and build a quick Angular app and do this while I'm talking. So it should be that simple. In fact, last time I gave this presentation at our meetup in Utah, a couple of people were able to do that. Some even ran into issues, and they were able to pull me aside physically and say, hey, what's this thing? I thought you said this was easy. And I said, well, I thought it was easy. And then we fixed it together. So I want you to do that, be able to do that, even though this is an online meetup. So the steps we're going to go through, I want to break them up into 3 major steps: Firebase, Flamelink, and Angular. Okay. So with Firebase, we're going to create a Firebase account or log in if you already have one. And then we're going to configure a new Firebase project. The Flamelink steps are, we're going to create a Flamelink free account, and we're going to configure Flamelink. And then the Angular steps, create a new Angular app. It can be done with NX if you want to, or without. I typically use NX when I do it, and that's made by our friends at Narwhal. It's a really great way of creating your Angular applications. And then we're going to run npm install. We're going to set up, before we run npm install, I will give you the list of dependencies you're going to want. And we're going to set up Angular Fire in the application. Then we're going to set up Flamelink in the application. So we're going to make the most out of these, like this half hour that I've got for you. But I do want to leave like 5 minutes for questions at the end. Let's get started. So Firebase step 1 is to create your account. Now I'm going to deviate from my prepared slides here and just jump into browser. So basically, we're going to create a new project. So I'm going to go up here, say add a project, and this is the screen that you'll see. So if you go and you log into Firebase, which I'm not going to show you, because it's really easy. You just go to Firebase. I think it's firebase.com, .google.com. Okay, and then you create mine says go to console because I'm logged in, but I think it'll say like sign up or sign in right there. And anyway, it'll take you to the screen. It'll let you create your project, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it Green Eggs and Ham, which is one of my favorite books. Okay, and we've got Google Analytics. I'm going to turn this off for now because I don't want to do this next page, which requires me to choose an account. But it's great. You can just choose your Google Analytics account or make one if you don't have one. And this is all just amazing Firebase features, and we can talk about that at a future time. So because I didn't choose that, it's already creating my Green Eggs and Ham project. And we'll wait just a minute. Okay, we're done. Now we're there. Here's our Green Eggs and Ham. It's already automatically on Spark plan, which is the free plan for Firebase. So if you're worried, oh, I don't want to do this, it might charge me, don't worry, because it starts you off on the Spark plan. And you can upgrade to more expensive plans if you want. I've used Blaze and it's awesome, but you don't need that to get started. So let's go ahead and create a web app for this Firebase project. I'm going to name it Ham. Maybe I'll have another one that's Green Eggs. Let's see. Also set up Firebase hosting. This is super cool, and I totally recommend it because the hosting is also free, unless you get to a certain threshold of concurrent users or you need more space for all of your code. But unless you're writing a ton of code, then you probably will never reach that threshold. And if you have that many concurrent users, you should start thinking about monetizing your app, because it's always better to write apps that make money than to write apps that don't. If you can, even if you're doing something amazing, you can give that money back to a charity or something. So anyway, I'm going to skip the Firebase hosting. It's really easy though. And okay, this step is where I'm going to pause. And I like to pause here because this is a great place to segue into creating a Flamelink account. Because what you see here, this part right here, is going to be used by the setup of Flamelink. Excuse me. All right, so, oh wait, I already got these ones. Now we'll just go there. So you go to flamelink.io. So if you're following along, go there. And we're going to say, log in somewhere, get started, I guess. Here's some that I've already built. Here's one that I just built, but let's go to add project for now. I just vetted this before earlier today to make sure that everything worked, and it did. So that's excellent. I have a lot of faith in these people. By the way, Flamelink, the company, is actually housed in South Africa, and they are an amazing brand, and they have amazing customer service. So I don't know, I just want to give a plug to them because they've helped me out a couple of times. So let's see. Here it is. So here's my Firebase config, and you'll notice over here, the first thing it asks you is, hey, where's your Firebase? What's your Firebase account? Okay. And the reason why it asks that is because remember, Flamelink is a headless CMS that allows you to invite your clients or your marketing or yourself, if you would rather manage your content that way, to use Firebase as a CMS. So it's tightly coupled, but that's a good thing in this case. Usually that's not a good thing, but in this case, that's a good thing. So I'm going to paste that directly into here. And what we're going to do here is basically make Flamelink a user in my Firebase application. And then it helps us out. It says, okay, here are some rules that you should follow. By the way, all of this is here in this lovely video. And you can even skip to the steps in here. So, okay, so we're going to copy this, and this is for our rules for our Firestore. I told them that I wanted to use Firestore, but I could also use real-time database. If you know anything about Firebase, these two databases are different. They're very different. Cloud Firestore is the newer one, and it's the one that they want you to default to for the most part. But real-time database is a lot more like using MongoDB, for example. That's how I've experienced it anyway. You can even like copy and paste entire collections and just import them that way into real-time database. Cloud Firestore is still trying to reach feature parity with real-time database, but it's got some things, and it's got some things that make it faster and more efficient. And I think that's what they're basing the future of Firebase on. I'm not 100% on that though. All right, so I'm just going to copy that, go back to my green eggs and ham. Right, because I didn't finish this part. So now we're going to go back to Firebase. I'm sorry if I'm jumping around too much, but I'm going to go back to Firebase. I'm going to finish this. Really, all I had to do was continue to console. And this is known as the Firebase console. Okay, got a lot of controls over here in this glorious sidebar. And I'm going to go manage my application that I just made. It's called a ham. I'm going to go to the settings of that. Actually, no, I was doing rules. So let's go to our Cloud Firestore. Just to note, if you do want to use real-time database, you can always add it at any time. You can also have both at the same time. Anyway, this is not a talk about Firebase alone, so let's keep going. So I'm going to create my Firestore. This looks big and scary, but it's really just like, if you choose your location for your Firestore, you can't change it later. And Central is fine for me because I'm in Utah. So, all right, this doesn't take very long. Anybody else notice the angular material spinner right there? All right, so, all right, we have nothing in our database right now. I could start one, I could start a collection, but I don't want to. For now, I'm just going to update my rules. Okay, if I don't update my rules, Flamelink will not be able to edit my Firestore. Okay, we want it to be able to edit our Firestore, at least certain collections, the collections that it's going to create and it's going to run for us. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I guess it forces me. Oh, I didn't. I accidentally hit Control-Z. All right, so I've saved that. All right, Flamelink, what's next? Storage rules. So now we have to do storage. Why do we have to do storage? Well, storage, Firebase storage is where it keeps your images, your files, and things like that. So Flamelink uses the storage to provision itself, okay? So it will manage your files in there for your CMS, part of it. I should really move this over here. So I'm going to go to storage. This, you don't have to like create or anything. You've already got a storage. Go to rules. Paste that. Okay, so we've done 3 steps. It's really, besides creating a new project in Firebase, and that took like 3 steps itself, we're on step 3 of this process. Oh, and now it's just a note. Hey, don't forget to adjust your authentication. You need some kind of authentication in order to use Flamelink. So they're just saying, well, why don't you just start with email password? So to do that, we go to this gear for the project settings. And this is where you can manage all of your project settings. Let's see, did I go to the right thing? Can never find it when I'm in a theme. Authentication. I'm sorry, not the gear. Go to authentication, go to sign-in method, and then here's email password. These are all of the built-in sign-in providers that you can enable in Firebase. So I'm going to enable just their email password one. I really love their Google one because I use a lot of Google, so that makes it easier for me. But if you enable that, they want you to provide a support email. That's not too big a deal. I'll do that. Cool. So now I've got that enabled. I finished all 4 steps. Cool. Finish. All right. Now this is where they try to take your money, but they have a free version. And I love any tool that gives me a free version. So I'm going to take the free angle. And you can always start at free and then expand if you wanted to make like a proof of concept, and then, you know, then the proof of concept was a huge success and you wanna use this a lot, then you could upgrade. All right, do I have a coupon code now? Confirm. So I'm paying $0. Done. So I have made the green eggs and ham, and I am now going to log in. Okay, just making sure it's not going to put my password out there. Okay, so this is the content dashboard for Flamelink. You have access on the side here to content, media. I'm going to ignore navigation because I never use it, but I think it's probably pretty cool. The three things we're going to start with are content, media, and schemas. Well, in the content part, it's like, hey, you don't have any schemas yet. And schemas are what allows you to define content. So we're just going to jump into creating a schema. And I said, I mean, this project is all about green eggs and ham, specifically ham for this app. So I don't know, somebody throw a type of ham at me. Just unmute yourself and give me a type of ham, because I really don't know.
Honey ham.
I guess I could do, what's that?
Honey ham.
Unham?
Honey ham.
Oh, honey ham, perfect.
Black Forest ham.
Oh yeah, perfect. Oh wait, what am I doing? This sounds more like content to me. So I was asking for types of hams, but really I should just make the schema like a ham type or a ham style. I don't know. We'll just say ham. So I'm going to make the schema a ham, and then I'm going to go make some content. Let's see. I don't need any of this other stuff for now. I could make this a single thing, and I'll tell you what that does in a bit. So I'm going to make that. I'm going to add a text field. You can drag and drop these, or just click it if you want to. And I'm going to name this field name. Cool. I'm going to move here, guys. This window, save that. Name. Cool. So now I'm going to go to content, and now I have this lovely square of ham, but I have no entries in my content yet. So I'm going to create a type of ham. So in here, we'll call it honey ham. Might as well be specific. I guess they're all hams. I'll just put honey. And then I'm going to do Black Forest. I love ham. It's delicious. Don't tell Jeff Cross. You might get scared. All right. So now I have my two different types of content, and I could add way more fields to each of these. All right. I'm going to stop with this particular app so I can speed ahead to one that I've already built. This is going to be, instead of green eggs and ham, it's going to be a project called Slack Bedtime Stories. My last name is Slack, and I have 3 kids, and they love bedtime stories. So I'm going to go in here, and I've already created two schemas. Okay, this entire application is meant so that me as a dad, I can go in there and read my kids a story. I pull out my phone, I go to my application, bedtime stories, and I pick a book and I read it to my son or my daughter. So I'm going to go long stories, and in long stories, I've created a ripped off version of Harry Potter, the Sorcerer's Stone. I didn't want to get sued, so I didn't actually fill that one out. But The Elves and the Shoemaker was one I could grab from a public library. So what I put in there is a name, an author, and this right here is called a repeater. And it allows you to put all sorts of things together as like an array of objects or collection of objects, right? So let me take you to what that actually looks like. Here it is. This is my Slack's Bedtime Stories application. Here's my short stories in the blue, and here are my long stories in the red. And this is populated completely by Flamelink. Let's go ahead and add another book. Throw at me the name of a short story that I can add to my books.
Dune.
If you don't think of something, then I'll have to like rack my brain. Let's see.
John, did you say something?
I said Dune. That's nice and short.
That is not a short story. But I'm excited for that movie. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see. Author. I don't know. I'm going to lose my nerd license right now. Who wrote Dune?
Frank Herbert.
Frank Herbert?
I believe so.
All right. If that's not true, that's Julie's fault. Okay, so the contents of Dune in this story are going to be really short. Once upon a time, there was a dune. I rode my ATV over it. The end. Okay, that is not what Dune's about. I know that. I know that much. I keep my nerd license. All right, I'm saving this. So let's take a look. Here it is in my list now. Just a note on this, you can choose whether to publish it as a draft, a review, or publish. There's like all of the things that you want from WordPress and none of the things you don't want. There's also language controls for localization. There are permissions, so you can give permissions to different sets of users. There's a lot to it. And I'm actually making really good time on this presentation. So if you guys have any questions, throw them at me and I'll try to answer it the best I can about what it can do or any other questions you have. Okay, so we just created a short story. So let's go back here and whoa, what? I didn't even reload this thing. Okay, we all know what WebSockets are, but yes, we can use WebSockets and get the data right away. All right, so I didn't have to refresh or anything. Let's click on Dune. Oh, it took it off the shelf. This is, I want to thank my designers, whimsy and laziness. Actually, I got to say this bookshelf took a lot of work to make and to get these books to like do that. But anyway, so here's Dune. I can now read this to my kid. Once upon a time, there was a dune. I rode my ATV over it. The end. Now go to bed. Stay in bed, you little rascal. He never does. Okay. So that is the moment where you should all be clapping. But I know you're muted, so it's okay that I don't hear any clapping right now. I know you're probably doing it. Well, thank you. All right. Let's talk about media for a bit. I'm going to delve into a couple of the features, and then we're going to look at the code. I promise we'll look at the code. I will not do live coding in front of you because I am a big baby, but I will let you see my code, which isn't that great. All right, so this whole thing is so that I can upload stuff in here, and you can access these images in your application. I should actually really create a picture book version of this, but it wouldn't do anything because I'd have to write some more code to expand it. But yeah, you can put pictures, you can put videos, you can put just straight up files, and if you do, then it will add those to your Firebase storage for you. In fact, let me show you what the Firestore looks like now that it's got content. We're gonna close green eggs in here. I don't know where my console went, so I'll just open it again. Okay. Looks like I closed it. So we're going to go in again. Slack bedtime stories. Here we go. Here's Cloud Firestore, and you'll notice that it made all these collections: FL content, environments, etc. And under content, we've got all of the content. So this is a little bit under the hood, and it shows, oh, nursery rhymes. That corresponds to one of my contents here. So there you go. That's how it works. but it handles it all for you. If you delete it in Flamelink, it deletes it in Firebase, and it's great. You can also create collections alongside this, like Flamelink has its users, but let's do our users. And we'll just add an ID, and now we've got this. So I have done this in a professional project. It's an incredible company that makes, what's it called? CrossFit for kids. And they produce a bunch of videos all the time, and they just use it, and I don't have to do anything because I just created a bunch of schemas and they manage the content, and it's really great. Okay, let's dive into the code a little bit. So how do you do this? I started with just an NX console, okay? So let me go back to my slides and see if I missed anything important. We covered that. Yep. Did that. These prices have changed since I made that. We did that. Okay, and now for creating a new app. So I built it using NX. You can just new up an app in Angular. You don't have to use NX. So ng new and give it a name. I created an app with 4 libs. There's a public feature landing. There's a public feature login, private feature home, and shared feature core. I made this like in a couple hours, I promise. So it's not the best architecture, but it worked. So I have a Flamelink service and a Firebase service, which were kind of optional. You don't really need those, but it made it easier. And for login, for authentication, I used Firebase UI, which was very simple to use. Okay. These are the versions that I was using at the time. Angular 8 is what's in my package.json, and it works fine with Angular 10. I recently did an upgrade of one of my other for fun projects. So these are the versions that I recommend. I recommend using Angular 8 with these. I don't know if these versions will work with Angular 10, but I know that there are versions of these that do. And these are all very well supported dependencies. As for setting up Firebase in your app, I created a Firebase service. Again, you don't have to, but it helps you keep track of your auth. And you can, I'll show you that real quick. So you can make this service anywhere. So this is Firebase service. And really all I do is keep track of the observable. I could just do that through here. I wanted to have one place where I imported that though, so I didn't have to import that all over the place. Instead, I import my service, which is okay because I use some other stuff in there. But it's pretty simple. You really don't need any of this. You actually don't even need this file. Add Firebase UI to your login component markup. So the thing about Firebase is if you have rules that don't let anybody see your content, then you have to log in. And then you can specify, okay, well, I want specific users to see this stuff and other things like that. But I went to my rules. Let's go back to that. And I just literally ripped them apart by doing what Flamelink told me to do. Don't panic. Like, you will need to lock down your rules for any Firebase project, okay? My purpose today isn't to show you how to do that, but I do want to tell you, you should do that on any Firebase project that you are serious about. So just a reminder to do your rules. We'll go to Firestore, rules, and I've basically put in here that Firebase, which is this UID, can do whatever it wants to, or Flamelink, sorry. My account on Flamelink can do whatever it wants to with writing privileges. And for reading, as long as they're logged in, this just means as long as they're logged in, they can read the content. Okay, so if I'm not logged in, actually I have this sign out button here. Then notice I'm not getting any books. So you can put this behind a paywall, you can put this behind a free wall, but as long as people are logged in, they can see stuff. I'm going to go log in again. Let's use Google. This is Firebase UI. It makes it really simple to do that. I'll show you how that works in a second. And yeah, no, I got time. Cool. And now I'm in, and now I'm getting the data. All right. I promised I would show you the rest. I have a Flamelink service. I use this to get stuff. That's it. You use it to get Flamelink data. So there's really not too much to it. This part was a little bit tricky because they haven't created a group, there is one now, which I've tested and I haven't used in a professional project. So I can't say for sure that it's amazing, but Flamelink has created multiple SDKs to use with their service. And I use the one that's the JS SDK. And the reason why I use that one is because at the time, a year ago, this was the best SDK that they had. And I still kind of think it might still be the best SDK. I apologize if you guys can hear my baby crying in the other room. The life of a dad. So, sweet. Okay, what was I saying? Sorry, my instinct went off. I want to go comfort my kid. Okay, so yeah, the SDKs, that's right. I think I have one open somewhere around here. Docs and help, here we go. SDKs. So it's right there at their website. By the way, their website is flamelink.io. And they have a bunch of SDKs. And I saw somewhere that they had an Angular one, but they must not show it here yet because it's not super advanced right now. So I recommend this one. I want to urge caution because when you're using the SDKs, they often look like the documentation for them looks exactly the same. And I wasted a ton of time just trying to use the right SDK because I started using this one and that one had been they stopped using it. They stopped building it. And then they started making this one. So I recommend this one. And that's what I'm using in my application. And they've got, you can install it with NPM and all that good stuff. And they tell you how to use each of their libraries too somewhere. There's an actual website for this. Sorry, what was that?
Looks like the documentation's good, which is always a plus.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the community is good too. They even have a Slack channel. So you can get on there and you can ask their developers questions. And I abuse that as much as I can because I'm a free user. And I think in freemium, I will use the crap out of that free service. But I'm really nice and I give talks like this about Flamelink, so they're nice to me. Now they're nice to everybody. They actually have great customer service. Anyway, that's the SDK. I'm going to move on because I feel like I am losing my way a little bit. Let's move on. Setting up the Flamelink app. All right, let's make a component, or let's look at the component I've made. I'll walk through that. Services, tools, public. No, it's going to be private. I made it simple. So in my component, I basically, that's the bookshelf page. So let's go take a look at that. That's this, okay? And I created some components. There's long story and short story. That's all just normal, Angular component stuff. So I'm not going to go into that. But in order to get this working in your app, you might want to know a couple things. So with your component, you can do this super simple thing of basically listening if you're logged into Firebase. So if you're logged in, then go ahead and subscribe to this particular content. And that's what gives us our WebSockets. And if you don't want to use something like NGRX, you just want to see proof of concept right away. NGRX is a state management tool library. It's really great. I use it for most of my projects. This can be used with NGRX, and I have used it with NGRX, but in this one, I'm not. This is the simple bare bones version of this. And so basically I set a property, short stories ref, and a long stories ref. And in my HTML, I have an ng4 that goes over all the short stories for that and prints them on the first line, and a long stories that prints it on the second line. Let's see. What do you need to know in order to make it work for you? You're going to use the Flamelink service.getApp. Okay, well, I made the Flamelink service, so what's in that? Flamelink service returns FL app, which is just flamelink.app.app. This version of it was pretty verbose, but I think they've actually made that less verbose at this point. And you can use Firebase directly from your component if you want to. I prefer to abstract it to a service. And getApp, all it does is returns flamelink.app.app. So in here, all I'm doing is doing flamelink.app.app.content. And that gives me the content feature of that. But I could also do like, I think, if I had schemas, I think I could also do that. I'm not sure why I'm not getting IntelliSense. Must be those giving a talk shenanigans. So, and then you can choose to specify specific fields that you want to get back so that you're not dumped with all the information. That can be really handy. But in this case, I always specify fields because I didn't want to get the metadata, which gives you like a giant object filled with like created dates and things like that, and I didn't care about that. So I didn't want to download that. Something that you want to keep in mind when you build a Firebase app is how much data you're passing through. And by that, I mean how much data your users are downloading, because it matters. It matters when you care about how much money you pay. And if you're like me and you want to pay zero money, then you care about that. Let me show you here. So we'll go to Cloud Firestore, usage, and you'll see that I started using this at 5 p.m. and I haven't even gotten I haven't even made a dent in how much reads I'm allowed. So that's good. And storage is the same way. There's usage. I haven't updated this in a while, so my app is 650 KB. So that's it. What else is there to show you guys? So this was just talking about the auth listener. You have your long stories and your short stories. Oh yeah, I had some bigger stories. Let's see. So some of the bigger stories, it's 3 Little Pigs. What was the other one? The Elves and the Shoemaker. So note, this is all coming from Flamelink. Well, how did I get the HTML in here? Remember that with HTML, it comes as untrusted. So you're going to need to use the Angular built-in sanitizer dependency that you can inject into your component and say, trust this as HTML, which I am pretty sure I did in here or here. I think I didn't have to do that because all I used were some styling things. But if you have like images and things like that, you'll probably have to use the sanitizer to make that work. That's pretty much my presentation. I'm going to skip to the end. There's a lot of great features to this that I could talk about, but I want to leave room for the other speakers. So bad at finding my presentation. Here it is. So I want to recommend to you, be proactive. The people who advance in their career very quickly are going to be the people who share their ideas. Share your ideas. You people are smart people. I don't have to know you to know that. You're here at this meetup. That is the smartest thing you've done today. Maybe not the smartest thing because I don't know what you did today, but it is really smart. And going to meetups is really great, not just for making you smarter and learning new things, but also the connections that you build. So I recommend to you, be confident and suggest this Flamelink or another headless CMS to the companies you work for or the clients that you work for. Speaking up could make it your job easier. And who doesn't want an easier job and to impress your bosses by making their lives, their products better overall? Some next steps that I want you to consider: you can get on Flamelink Slack. It's flamelink.io/Slack, and you can easily start talking to them, ask questions. What can this do? And they'll get a salesperson with you, or you can bring up some weird behavior that you might see. They're also really quick at responding to their GitHub issues. So that's really great. Do keep in mind there's a time zone difference. So when you're awake, and if you're in the United States, they're going to be asleep. They're in South Africa. It's pretty big difference. I can't remember if it's like 7 or 9 hours, but it's a pretty big difference. So usually I hit them up in the morning if I need to, or just leave a message during the day and expect them to get back to me probably the next day or whenever they can. You can read this article that I didn't write, that somebody at Flamelink actually wrote, on how to secure your Firebase and still allow Flamelink to do its job. So I can share, I'll share this slide with you guys somehow. Or you can hit me up on Twitter. You can DM me. I'm Erik_Slack. ERIK is my first name. And you can, I can give you whatever links you want. Other next steps: use NGRX with Flamelink. I love NGRX, so why not use it with Flamelink? Basically, you just put your calls to get the Flamelink data in your side effects, in your effects, and you can store them in your store and access them with selectors. And you can even still have all of the goodness that comes with your WebSockets. So that's pretty cool. I have done that and it's awesome. So I totally recommend that. This video will teach you how to use NGRX if you don't know anything about NGRX, but there are many people who have written articles or given talks about it. Brandon, man, I forgot his name. Brandon Roberts gave an amazing talk last year at NGConf that I completely recommend. If you Google NGConf, NGRX, his talk is usually one of the first that comes up. And then here's the link to the Firebase article that I wrote, which goes in more detail about everything that I've talked about. So note on SDKs, we already talked about how there's multiple SDKs. Just be careful that you have the right SDK. Remember, the JS SDK is the one that I've shown you here. Takeaways: use Flamelink and Firebase to power your Angular apps with Headless CMS features. And hopefully today I've given you another tool for your tool belt. You can use it how you'd like. I can get a Firebase and Flame, and I'm not special. I'm slow. I'm special. No, I can't say that. I'm just slow, right? So I can tell you it took me like a couple hours to get an entirely new web application hosted with Flamelink, with Firebase, with authentication, using Firebase and Flamelink in just a couple hours. You can do that too. And I'm sure you guys will go even faster than I did. And I have this, that application with the books is shared publicly. You guys can check it out and run it. And that is the end. So thank you guys for listening to me today. And I just want to give a plug for Enterprise NG. You guys should check that out. It's an online conference for Angular, and it's geared around specifically the enterprise. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Erik. That was awesome. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to just speak up and say them. If you don't feel comfortable talking or you're in a loud room and you can't talk, feel free to put them in the chat. Actually, I have a question for you, Erik. You
Yeah, go for it.
WebSockets. So just like out of the box, Flamelink's going to send you all of your content over WebSocket. You don't have to do anything special to get that going. You don't have to refresh your page.
Nope. It's if you use that subscribe method that I showed you, they have another one that doesn't use they have another method that doesn't give it to you as a WebSocket, so you can do that too. I've used that one as well. But yeah, it's just out of the box and you get the WebSockets and you don't have to think.
That's awesome.
That's the best way to develop.
Yeah, it's even better that you get to choose like whichever one's more appropriate for your use case.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
You can also filter information. You can do all kinds of stuff with that.
Nice. Nancy wants to know if that background is Angel's Landing.
What background?
I think your desktop one.
You're looking at.
Oh, I have no idea. I found this like a few years ago. I was like, my desktop is boring. I want to see nature, and because I'm locked in a building all the time, so I just Googled backgrounds, and this is like the prettiest one I've ever seen, and I just love seeing it. I don't know if it's even real, but I think it's a real place in the earth somewhere.
It looks like a place where I hiked in Zion.
It totally could be.
It's really pretty.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda has a question too. Does Flamelink build for you when you want to launch live, or have to ng build still?
It does not build for you. It is just a tool in your application that will build when you do ng build. So I haven't had any issues around the build process. I've made my application, used Flamelink in the application, built it, served it up to a test server, and also served it up to a prod server. They even allow you to use multiple environments. That's not on the free features, and the free features only allow you to have one user also. They've gotten kind of stingy this year. They're not stingy about a lot of things, but they got stingy about that because they want people to actually pay for their service. Gosh, I hate that. But it's supporting an amazing company, and so I don't hate that as much.
Could you show us the corresponding schema in Firebase, in Firestore? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
Could you show us the corresponding schema Flamelink created automatically in Firestore?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen again. So here's my bedtime story site. Let's go to Firestore.
We can
we're looking at your beautiful background.
Are you really?
The desktop one.
Stop share.
Zoom can be fun sometimes.
Sure can. Okay, now that makes sense. Can you see now?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Those presenting shenanigans. Okay, so yeah, these are the schemas that I've got. Remember, I had long stories and short stories, so that's what you see represented here. Has a lot of different data that you can use. There's sorting. There's the key. Remember, I called it author. If you were to look at that through Flamelink's schemas page, here's long story. You'll see that it's got a schema ID of long story, and that's what it used. I'm really bad at managing my tabs today. There it is. So is that what you wanted to see? Do you want to see more about that, or?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. So
awesome.
Okay.
And another cool thing is they have so many kinds of fields, like WYSIWYGs and.
So where is the content stored? So you had written the content for Dune. So where is that stored in the? Okay, so there's a separate content. Okay, collection.
I'm gonna search Dune. see if it finds it. I'm not the biggest fan of the UI on the Flamelink searching your database. I think there's still some room to improve on that. Let's see, author. I don't remember the author's name.
Frank Herbert.
I know, I'm offending so many people right now. Okay, so filter by name. Okay, Dune, here we go. There's the data for Dune. Notice it's got some paragraph tags in there. There's a lot of paragraph tags. It's a WYSIWYG. It is what it is. You can put images into your WYSIWYG and all kinds of stuff. That's it. I don't want to take up too much time.
So each story is stored as a document or a collection?
As a document under the collection of FL_content, which these were automatically created for me.
Okay, and then Dune is one of the documents.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for your question. I'm going to turn it over to whoever's next.
Okay, I guess I will take it over. I'm here to introduce Yvonne Allen. She is a